Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 3 review series. And today I'm going to be talking about episode 2, Uncontrollable Forces, which I have just finished watching. And this episode for me, in my honest opinion, was without a doubt the most emotional and most powerful episode I have ever seen for this series so far. And this episode was very interesting because it didn't feature a main villain as such. I mean, we've already established who's going to be the big bad for season 3, and that is, of course, Bruno Mannheim. But this episode delivered a very powerful yet heartbreaking revelation for not only Lois Lane in particular, but for Superman and the entire Kent family as well. And it pretty much took its cues and gave us some interesting nods to a classic Superman story from the comic books. Now, a lot of you hardcore geeks out there, you have probably have already read All Star Superman, or you've seen All Star Superman animated movie. You kind of know what I'm talking about, or you kind of know where I'm going with all of this, but it gave us nods and cues from All Star Superman, but kind of put a little twist on things in terms of the storytelling. And this is what's made the show so good because they can take little nods from classic Superman stories and just kind of put their own twist on things. So it's not a case of we're just retelling the story for the sake of retelling. We're taking some of those classic story aspects, but we're just taking it in a different direction. So I thought the way they did that for this episode was very well done. And, you know, I've been seeing lots of comments and seeing lots of interesting articles about the way they handled this particular subject in this episode. I thought was very, very well done. And it got me a little bit choked up as well because I'm just interested to see where this story is going to head. And it's going to make for a very, very emotional season 3, I think. So I'm going to give a quick recap on what's happened so far, and then after that, we're just going to get straight into talking about episode 2 because I think there's plenty to get our teeth into. So we saw back in episode 1, we saw Henry Miller return as the Atom Man. He's now got powers, and we saw Superman and Atom Man go at it, and he was taken out by a mysterious hooded figure who turned out to be onomatopoeia and disoriented Superman and tricked Superman into thinking there was danger everywhere, which turned out not to be the case. And we learned that onomatopoeia is working for Bruno Mannheim, who is now established as the big bad for season 3. And we also saw Henry Miller being brought to life. He was given superpowers. So Bruno Mannheim is what it appears to be. Is looks like he's putting together his own army of super beings. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Also in episode 1, Kyle and Lana are officially divorced. So we've pretty much seen the end of that marriage. And we also see General Sam Lane is trying to encourage Natalie Irons to join the DoD and put her skills to good use. And we also saw Kyle and Chrissy hook up as well. So a very good overall first episode, which was the season 3 premiere of Superman and Lois, and it's pretty much setting the table that Bruno Mannheim is going to be the main villain for season 3. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 2, Uncontrollable Forces. So, Smallville High has been closed down due to mold. So we see Sarah and Natalie are bonding, and they more or less invite themselves to a party in Metropolis because Sarah wants to help Natalie hook up with a guy because she hasn't had a guy since her world got destroyed, and obviously she's single. So the two of them go off to a party, and we see the Kent boys go to that party as well. And we also see in this episode Sarah and Jordan agree to remain friends. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but time will tell. So we saw a bit of that as well. So we've kind of seen them moving on from being boyfriend and girlfriend, and now they're just going to be good friends. Well, go figure. And we see Dean gets murdered by the hooded figure who is Onomatope. After Onomatope disoriented Dean with her abilities and basically just killed him and shattered his phone. So that was quite a good, powerful scene there. And we see also at the beginning of the episode, which kind of like sets the tone for what this is all going to be about. We see Lois going to the hospital to get a checkup. Now, if you remember back in episode 1, Lois thought she was pregnant, and it turned out that she wasn't pregnant. It was just a false alarm, but Lois still had to be brought back in for more tests, and Lois, of course, has been given devastating news, and we kind of see Lois on this emotional journey throughout the episode. So even like when she's out with Clark and the boys, you can see Lois is just in her own little world, trying to deal with this devastating news that she's been told, which we'll get to in a moment. And we see Lois and Clark go into Metropolis to learn more about Intergang and the involvement with the judge and Bruno Mannheim. And Lois is just in another world, and Clark obviously senses that something's wrong. And we also got in this episode the first meeting of Superman and Bruno Mannheim, which I thought was really good. Brought back some cool memories of Superman the animated series when Superman introduced himself to Lex Luthor, and I thought that was just really good. And we also got a Lex Luthor reference in this episode as well, so that was pretty good. And we kind of get an idea of what Bruno Mannheim's motivations are. He pretty much says to Superman that while you're off somewhere else saving people, why aren't you saving the people here? I'm doing my job. Why aren't you doing yours? So that was very cool back and forth scene between those two. And we see Judge Regan is talked out of jumping off the roof by Lois, and we see Lois emotionally breaks down in tears and confesses to her that she's been diagnosed with stage inflammatory breast cancer, which Superman, of course, hears with his super hearing, and he gets very emotional, and Lois breaks down in tears. So I thought that was a very, very powerful moment, and we see Lois and Clark having a heart to heart, and Clark is more or less saying, "Look, whatever happens, I'm here for you. We'll get through this like we always do." And we also got John Henry Irons meeting Lana for the first time, so that was quite an interesting moment as well. I wonder where they'll go with that. And we also see at the end of episode 2, we see Lois tells the boys her diagnosis, and everyone just has a very emotional moment, which quietly brings episode 2 to a close. And I thought the way they handled the whole cancer thing with Lois was very well done, because anybody who's read All Star Superman or has seen the animated movie, everybody remembers Superman was dying of cancer, and of course we know that Lois got temporary superpowers. So it's an interesting cue they've done here, and of course anybody who's read Superman comics, Lois was diagnosed with cancer. So it's very interesting to see where this story is going to head to. But I thought Elizabeth Tulloch did an amazing job. She really put on an emotional performance, and it even got me a bit emotional as well because you care about these people. We love Lois Lane, we love Clark Kent, and of course we love Superman. And this is one of those rare situations where Superman, with all of his powers and all the things he can do, this is one enemy that he may not be able to beat, and this is something he can't do. There's nothing he can do about it because this is affecting someone else. Usually Superman can save someone from falling off a rooftop or save someone from a burning building or, dodge bullets to avoid someone getting shot. He can do all these things, but could he beat cancer? Can he save Lois? So I think this is going to set up a very interesting story arc for season 3. And hats off to everyone. I thought this was a very good episode. And episode 1 was great, but I think episode 2 was better. I just think they really told a powerful story and delivered a very emotional moment. And I'm just dying to know where this is heading next. And the scene with Bruno Mannheim and Superman, yeah, it's on. That's all I'm going to say. It's on. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this all heads to and how it sets up for episode 3. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 2? Did you enjoy it? What's your reaction to Lois Lane being diagnosed with cancer? How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think Superman will be able to save her? And also, what about Bruno Mannheim and Superman's confrontation? Where do you think that's going to head next? Do you think Bruno Mannheim is right? Do you think he is trying to save Metropolis? And also, what about Sarah and Jordan just being friends? Do you think it will last? And where do you think that story is going to head next? And also, what about John Henry and Lana? Do you think there could be some sort of chemistry there? Do you think we'll see more of that? Or do you think that's just a one-time thing and we may never see that again? And what about Onomatope? Who do you think her next targets will be next? Do you think it could be Lana Lang? And if so, where does Onomatope fit into Bruno Mannheim's plans? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 3 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 3, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, especially with the way this episode played out and the way it ended. It's going to be a very emotional episode 3, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.